In the world of sports, there are stars, there are superstars, and then there are those very, very rare few whose names just seem to transcend the game itself. Today, we're unpacking the story behind one of those names, Lionel Messi, and it all starts with a single, frankly, astonishing number. Okay, we have to start with a number that is, well, it's honestly hard to wrap your head around. 8 times. 8 times named the best player on the entire planet. This isn't just a record, it's a level of sustained excellence that completely redefines what we thought was possible in football. So it just makes you wonder, right? How does anybody reach that level of greatness, let alone stay there for so long? Well, to answer that, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning. Because the story of the world's greatest player is, at its heart, a story about overcoming some pretty incredible odds. This wasn't some journey that was destined from birth. It was forged against challenges that would have ended most careers before they even got off the ground. And look, this wasn't some kind of insult. This was the real, honest-to-goodness first impression from his own youth coach. It just perfectly captures the paradox of young Messi. I mean, when you looked at him, he didn't fit the mold of a future athletic giant at all. But then, the ball came to his feet and everything changed. And that thing about being fragile, it wasn't just how he looked. It was a real medical diagnosis. At just 10 years old, Messi was diagnosed with a growth hormone deficiency. The treatment was incredibly expensive, a sum his family and his local club just couldn't afford consistently. So his dream was on the line, not because he lacked talent, but because of a lack of hormones and money. So this is the moment, right? The turning points. After clubs back in Argentina hesitated, the family managed to arrange a trial all the way across the Atlantic with FC Barcelona. And the club's director, a guy named Carlos Rexach, saw the exact same thing his first youth coach had seen. He was so blown away, so convinced, that he famously grabbed the only thing he could find, a paper napkin, and drew up a contract right there. It was a massive leap of faith that would literally change football history. And that leap of faith? Wow, it paid off in ways I don't think anyone could have possibly imagined. Messi didn't just become a player for Barcelona. For nearly 2 decades, he became the heart, the soul, and the undisputed king of the club. You know who said it best? Pep Guardiola, the manager who arguably unlocked Messi's greatest potential. This quote just says it all. Under Pep, Messi became this tactical centerpiece, a false nine that just shattered every rule and every record. The feeling wasn't that he was the best player in the league, it was that he was playing a completely different game from everyone else. All right, let's talk numbers, because his dominance can be measured in stats that are just breathtaking. Let's start with this one, 672 goals. That's the most goals any player has ever scored for a single club. It's a testament to a kind of loyalty and insane, consistent production that's almost gone from the modern game. Then you've got this, 474 goals in Spain's La Liga. He didn't just break a record that had been standing for almost 60 years, he absolutely obliterated it, setting a new bar that might honestly never be reached again. And then there's this one, the number that just feels impossible, 91, the most official goals ever scored in a single calendar year, back in 2012. To put that into perspective, most of the world's best strikers are lucky to score 91 goals in 3 or 4 years. He did it in 1. It's a statistic that still feels like a typo. But here's the thing, his individual brilliance was never just for show, it was the engine that drove a dynasty. Just look at this staggering trophy haul. He led Barcelona to the first ever treble in Spanish football history, winning the league, the cup, and the Champions League. And then, you'll never believe it, he did it all over again years later. But even after all that success, for every mountain he conquered with his club, there was always this one peak that seemed out of reach. His final quest, the one that would cause him the most pain, winning for his country, Argentina. And this, right here, was the one thing that critics always brought up. It followed him everywhere. Could he really be the greatest ever if he couldn't deliver a major trophy for Argentina? The pressure was just immense, an entire national obsession resting squarely on his shoulders. And man, that quest it was defined by some absolutely brutal, soul-crushing heartbreak. 3 years in a row, he dragged his nation to a major final, only to lose every single time. The 2014 World Cup final against Germany, then 2 straight Copa America final losses to Chile on penalty kicks. After that third one, he emotionally and briefly just retired from the national team. It really seemed like the dream was over. But he came back. And then, in 2021, the entire narrative finally changed. He led Argentina to victory in the Copa America, the nation's first major trophy in 28 long, agonizing years. It was just this moment of pure catharsis for him and for an entire country. And that win, it just set the stage for the absolute peak, the climax of his entire career. At 35 years old, in what he said was his final World Cup, he put on one of the greatest individual tournament performances we have ever seen, scoring 7 goals, including 2 in the final, to lead Argentina to win the 2022 FIFA World Cup. The final quest was complete. I mean, he didn't just win the tournament, he absolutely dominated it, earning the Golden Ball as its best player. And because he'd also won it back in 2014, he became the only player in the history of the sport to receive that award twice. So, with that final massive trophy finally in his hands, the whole debate about his legacy, it entered its final chapter. Where does he truly stand in the pantheon of footballing gods? Okay, so you can't even talk about Messi's legacy without bringing up Cristiano Ronaldo, right? Their rivalry was legendary, and it pushed both of them to unimaginable heights. Now, the debate over their different styles, Ronaldo's raw power versus Messi's supernatural dribbling, that'll go on forever. But if you just look at the game's highest individual honors, a pretty clear distinction starts to emerge. And the other huge comparison, especially for Argentinians, was always Diego Maradona. For years, Messi kind of lived in Maradona's shadow in the hearts of his own people. But what's truly amazing is that Maradona himself, as early as 2006, basically anointed the young Messi as his successor. But when you try to sum up his total impact, it's just mind-boggling. He's not just one of the greatest goal scorers ever. He's also arguably the greatest playmaker of his generation. If you combine his goals and his assists, you get the highest number of goal contributions in the history of the sport. He creates just as much as he finishes. And look, his influence goes so far beyond the soccer pitch. He's a true cultural phenomenon. He's been recognized by Time magazine, he's a billionaire in career earnings, and he's the owner of the most liked social media post of all time, that picture of him finally holding the World Cup trophy. So that brings us right back to where we started. From the small, fragile kid who was told he couldn't play to the World Cup champion with every single major trophy to his name. The statistics are staggering, and the story, well, it's just unparalleled. The only question left to ask is the one his entire career has been building towards. Is he the greatest of all time? That, ultimately, is for you to decide.